How should you implement a deload week? Find out in today's Q&A. Hey everyone, Dylan here from Wynn, where the goal of the channel is to help you get a little bit stronger every single day. Thanks for clicking on another 5-minute Friday Q&A video where I attempt to answer your questions in under 5 minutes. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future questions being answered. And if you would like your question answered, please leave a comment below and I'll get to that in a future video. So today's video is kind of a follow-up to a previous video that I'll leave linked here as to when to do a deload. Today I'm going to discuss how to do a deload. So let's start that timer. So remember, the reason for a deload is to help the body to recover both mentally and physically from stressful work. It allows us to rebound a little bit quicker. If we keep stressing the body, we don't give ourselves time to recover and adapt to that stress stimulus. The deload does allow us to reduce the decay in performance as much as possible. So think of it like a 4 steps forward, 1 step backward type scenario. So we're doing 4 weeks of work and then 1 week of rest, or whatever the breakdown is based on your training program. We basically have 4 different options for performing a deload week. The first one will be to reduce the weight on the barbell and keep the reps and sets the same. So keep the volume the same, reduce the weights. This is a good option if you're coming off of a strength cycle, just because you're playing around with really maximal weights and we're removing the biggest stress of the weights. Second option is to keep the weight on the barbell the same, but reduce the sets and or reps. So reduce the overall volume that we're doing. This is a good option if you're doing a hypertrophy phase, just because we are playing around with submaximal weights already. So the biggest stressor here is going to be that volume, that set rep count that we're doing. So cut that back, we'll remove the biggest stressor that we're facing. The third is to reduce both the reps, is to reduce both the weight and the reps and the sets. So cut weight and volume. This is a good option if you're feeling particularly fatigued, the accumulated fatigue is setting in, you're feeling super stressed, you need a bigger refresh. Possibly a good time to include this is at the end of a particularly brutal mesocycle or a phase. Finally, simply do nothing. That's the final option you have for a deload week. Probably the simplest and the easiest option. It doesn't necessarily account for the reduced decaying performance, but if you plan around it correctly, it can be helpful. For example, if you work really hard, push past, train past failure with forced reps in that week before the deload week where you do absolutely nothing, it's going to be a great way to take advantage of a complete restful period. And don't write this off. Doing nothing for a deload week is a great strategy and a great tool to have when you want to plan around special events, vacations, holidays, gatherings, trips, anything like that. It's a great way to train around knowing that you're going to have time off with family and friends. It's something I plan around, that I play around with when I'm having a vacation coming up. I personally will train around that schedule so I don't have to train for that entire week of holiday or vacation, whatever special event might be coming up. So those are the 4 main ways to implement a deload week. Again, keep things as simple as possible. You're looking at how you can reduce the biggest stressor that you face in the previous 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is. You don't have to deload the same way every single time. So the frequency doesn't have to stay the same, or the type of deload doesn't have to stay the same. Mix and match depending on how your training's feeling, what you're thinking is causing the most stress for you. Drop that out and still push forward a little bit. So depending on the phase will depend on what type of deload you do, and it might not work that way. Maybe after a heavy strength phase you want to continue with the heavy weights but drop the volume. So there's another option as well. I highly recommend to focus on technique of each and every movement, because we are reducing the workload in some form or fashion. You might feel bored with the workouts. I suggest to maintain some sort of excitement around the week of training, to focus really on your technique and hone in on that craft of lifting. We're really looking at how can we improve the lift, where have we been failing, or where have we been struggling, finding those sticking points in the previous weeks of training, and really implementing some fixes and improvements for those movements, so that when you come back that next week, not only have you had some good rest and so with recovery from both a mental and physical point of view, you're going to have more refined technique because you can't really over practice a movement. You can get better and better and better, and that's going to come from more and more reps. And the biggest thing that I would say is to try not to do too much in a deload week. You're going to have the tendency to want to throw in extra arm work or extra ab work, or do some more cardio so that you feel tired, feel more exhausted at the end of a workout or at the end of the week. Try and hold the reins and stop yourself from doing that, just because the point of the deload is to have that rest, is to get that mental refreshness. You want to almost, but just to wrap up, you really want to kind of be bored with the training for that week. Not necessarily, yes, from a physical point of view, but from that mental point, you want to come back that next week really excited to train. And that's what taking a week off really does. It's kind of like stretching that rubber band back and then throwing yourself forward when you release that rubber band that next week, when you can actually get into the gym and put in all that focus and energy there. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you've got any value out of it, please consider subscribing just so you don't miss out on any future videos. I'll leave a playlist at the end so you can catch up on the future questions on the previous questions that I've answered. This has been Selwyn from Wynn, and remember to never stop learning and to never stop lifting.